We all think we trust our own minds, don't we? I mean, it's us. But what if I told you that the voice in your head, the one you trust most, is constantly spinning stories, and a lot of them aren't true? Yeah, we're going to dive into why you really shouldn't always believe everything you think. So think about that for a second. This isn't just about your memory getting a little fuzzy. No, it's about your brain actively inventing things. It's a real thing, actually. It's called confabulation. It's where your mind just makes up memories to fill in any gaps in a story. And the craziest part? It's not trying to trick you. It's an honest lie. But to you, it feels every bit as real as an actual memory.
Okay, so to really get this, let's look at a story. Let's meet Mark. Now, if you looked at his life from the outside, you'd think, wow, this guy has it all. 42, successful executive, you know the type. But inside, there's this constant, gnawing feeling of emptiness. And because facing that truth is, well, it's just too hard. His brain does what brains do best. It starts to spin a story, a much more comfortable one.
And that brings us to our first big idea here, the lie we choose to live. Mark's story, it's just a perfect example of the subtle, kind of sneaky ways we lie to ourselves every single day.
So what's the lie Mark's living? Well, the truth is, he's chasing someone else's dream, and it's making him miserable. But to admit that, to say, I've spent years on the wrong path, that would just crush his ego. So his brain cooks up a much better narrative. This exhaustion he feels? Oh, that's not emptiness. That's just the price of success. And let's be honest, this isn't just a Mark thing, is it? We all do this. We all spin stories to make ourselves feel better about the choices we've made.
So what is actually happening in his brain to make this all go down? We're about to look under the hood at the psychological machinery that makes this happen. It's something scientists call the dissonance engine.
Yeah, this idea comes from a psychologist named Leon Festinger, and his whole thing was that our brains absolutely hate contradictions. They crave consistency. So when our actions, like, say, Mark dragging himself to a job he can't stand, clash with our beliefs, like, I'm a smart person who makes good choices, it creates this awful mental static, this stress. And our brain will do pretty much anything to make that tension go away.
And here's the cool part. Festinger didn't just sit around and think about this stuff. Nope, he proved it with this really brilliant, kind of clever experiment that's now like a legend in social psychology.
Okay, so check out the setup. It was actually pretty simple. He got a bunch of students and had them do the most boring tasks imaginable. I'm talking like turning wooden pegs on a board for a full hour. Mind-numbing stuff. Then, after the hour was up, he said, hey, could you do me a favor, lie to the next person waiting and tell them this was actually really fun and exciting. But here's the twist. He paid some of them $20 to tell the lie, and others just a single dollar.
And the results? This is where it gets wild. The people who didn't have to lie, they of course said the tasks were super boring. The group that got paid $20, they also said it was boring. But the people who only got $1, get this, they actually rated the tasks as genuinely enjoyable. Wait, what? How does that even make sense?
It all boils down to one word, justification. See, the folks who got $20 had an easy out. Why'd I lie? For $20, duh. It was a solid external reason. But the $1 group? Man, their brains were going into overdrive. They were hit with this massive dissonance. It's like a little voice screaming, wait a minute, I'm an honest person. I wouldn't sell my integrity for a measly dollar.
And this is the absolute key. Since they couldn't travel back in time and untell the lie, their brain did the only thing it could do. It changed the memory. It changed their belief. To get rid of that awful nagging feeling, they literally convinced themselves that the lie was the truth. You know what? That task wasn't so bad after all. It was actually kind of interesting. Their brain just rewrote reality to make everything okay again.
But believe it or not, this whole cognitive dissonance thing, that's just the tip of the iceberg. It's just one piece of a much deeper, darker, and more personal system of self-deception. And that brings us to what's known as the ego's blind spot. Okay, so what is this? It's the blind spot bias. Think of it like a bias about being biased. It's this funny thing where we are absolute experts at seeing the flaws in other people's thinking. We can spot their irrationality, their emotional decisions, their prejudices from a mile away. But when it comes to our own, we're completely blind. We just can't see it. Here's a great way to picture it. Imagine your brain has a bias detector program running. The only thing is, it's designed to only point outward. It scans everyone else for bugs, but it's programmed to never ever scan its own system. And this isn't a mistake in the code, it's a feature. It's there to protect our ego. to maintain this precious self-image we have of being a logical, smart, objective person. But that just leads to the next question, right? Why? Why are we so blind to ourselves? I mean, if our brains are these supercomputers, why this one giant, glaring blind spot? Well, the answer has a name: the introspection illusion. It's this powerful belief we all have that we know ourselves perfectly, that we have this special, direct line into our own thoughts and feelings. We believe that when we look inside our own heads, we're seeing the pure, unvarnished truth of why we do what we do. But here's the punchline. That feeling of self-knowledge, it's mostly an illusion. Study after study shows that what we think is deep insight is really just our brain making up a story after the fact. An emotional, unconscious part of our brain makes a decision, and then bam, our conscious mind jumps in and creates this perfectly logical-sounding reason for why we did it. Your conscious mind isn't the CEO making the calls. It's the press secretary sent out to justify a decision that was already made. And what this does is it creates this totally unfair system for how we judge people. When we look at ourselves, we judge ourselves based on our private intentions. I didn't mean for it to come out that way, or my heart was in the right place. But when we look at other people, we don't see their intentions, we only see what they did. We judge them by their actions. So we constantly give ourselves a pass that we almost never give to anyone else.
Okay, so this all sounds a little bleak, right? But what do we do about it? Is there a way out? Yes, and that brings us to the final idea for today, the freedom of doubt. It's about how you can start to take back control and rewrite your own story.
First things first, you have to understand this is not your fault. Your brain isn't broken. It's actually working perfectly, just not for the job you think it is. Its goal was never to be a perfect video camera of reality. Its main job is to protect your ego, to keep your internal story straight, to keep you sane. And even if that means bending the truth a little, or a lot, those lies you tell yourself, they probably started as a shield, something you needed to survive.
So the big takeaway here isn't about trying to fix your brain. You can't. Instead, it's about developing a healthy sense of doubt. Not about other people, but about the narrator in your own head. Because real freedom, real clarity, it doesn't come from being 100% sure you're always right. It comes from having the courage to stop, listen to that story you're telling yourself, and just ask, is that really true?
So I'll just leave you with this one last thing to think about. What is the one lie, that one comfortable, convenient story that you tell yourself to protect yourself? What's your shield? And more importantly, what do you think would happen if you finally found the courage to set it down?